So for us, Europe is larger than this. It can be Belarus, it can be Turkey, and so on. We shouldn't limit ourselves to borders that have been defined by some other people. So that's one thing. The other is we chose collective action. We chose to focus on what we had in common. Either if we live in a settlement or in a squat or so on, we had to fight against eviction. We went to the MEPIM and we organized a court where we asked how is your market and what is decided, because we knew that they were selling a part of the slums of Deria at that point. So we knew that thousands and thousands of dwellers of those slums would be evicted from their neighborhoods, from the settlements that they built themselves. So the 10 countries that were there organized a court for their country to decline the impact of these projects on the evictions and other issues linked to this. And then everything went naturally, because what was the hardest after that was to create solidarity. And here I think that we have a great example of what solidarity is, what this coalition is about, how we can build collective action going from an unbuilt concept. We chose to take apart the borders, and when we also had to change the nature of all forms of solidarity. And I think that tonight we have a great example of that, of how this is built by sharing our experiences. And when we talk about knowledge, we talk about it in plural in French, because here we talk about knowledge as know-hows and knowledge itself, and those things are linked to create collective thinking. And what seemed important, and this was one of the demands of the coalition, is that the sociologists and all sorts of researchers, experts, so that those people could also take part in this coalition, could be members of a militant group. Otherwise, we had the impression that even though they have skills and abilities and knowledge, there is distance from ideology. We wanted those people to be so that they are members of a collective, of a fight. I don't want to take too much time, because we all should take the floor shortly. I don't know if there are any questions on the coalition today. We can observe that there are 30 movements in different countries, but I think that we are at the beginning of the path, and that there is a lot to we can go forward, and you are all welcome to take part on that path. Thank you, Annie.
Time after the interventions for clarification, for questions. I suggest to have all the speeches in the beginning, and I was so excited that we finally start that I forgot to mention in the beginning that we would like to ask you all to wear masks. We have some masks here. I will show it to Nick. It's just not Nick. And also I wanted to mention that this that our meeting here was supported and made possible with the support of Action Logement Bruxelles, that were organizing and supporting us a lot. It was a great opportunity to meet a lot of local comrades here. And we had also economical support from the Foundation for the Human Progress and from the Foundation Rosa Luxemburg. And I would like to ask you, we have a list here of participants of this event. I will give it to you, and we would like to ask you to leave your name on this list. And our next speaker is Said. Introduce yourself, please, and start.
Bonsoir. Je m'appelle.
Good evening, my name is Said, and I'm here to talk in the name of Coalition KBC. I would like to thank all our friends, all of comrades that organized this event. This is a place where we can share our daily issues or fight. In Brussels, we think that we are 100,000 people, undocumented people, and 60% are people that work on in scarce professions. We have been fighting for a long time now to be to get our documents, and we are blocked by a law. We are blocked by the law 9 bis, which limits the actions by economic migrants. Today's mechanism, of course, well, we know about it, we know how it works. We know how it works regarding to the question of immigration. Today, this is a debate that is more important to the rights instead of the left. And of course, our friends from that organization fight to be recognized, for a cause to be recognized in different militant groups and associations to share and create a united front that we need today. Our friends, the neutral zone was established after a hunger strike that was organized by the organization Union of Undocumented People, Union des Sans-Papiers. After this hunger strike, another event was created. It was the zone neutre, the neutral zone. We reacted in regard to a rumor that was disseminated by the government, and the immediate reaction that we organized was occupations. We organized the occupation of a building in June, a building next to the European Parliament. This was a message for the European Union, so that this European Union so that it does what is necessary to answer to address the issues of undocumented people in Europe. The other question, the question that you all know about, is the question of the KBC building. This building was owned by the bank before, and today it is in the hands of an owner who wants to demolish everything and create settlements, flats and housing for rich people. We occupied this building to bring a question on the table regarding international economy. Our second objective was to send a message so that collectivities do what is necessary to help the people that are undocumented and are struggling, but who do their part for the society and the economy. The building that we occupied, as you know, our group, Neutral Zone, we are 400 people. When we started, there was 200 people living in the building, inside the building. The 15th of December, we defended ourselves. We resisted to be able to stay. The owner would like us to go away on the 15th of December, and it wasn't the case. After 2 months, the municipality came with the owner to tell us that we had to clear the building, and resisted, of course, with other organizations, with other friends and activists. We reacted with letters. We sent emails to the municipality. And we came to another agreement on the 15th of March. Maybe until then we would be 200 to 300 people. The problem is the human being, this human being that we evict every time, those human beings that live in a housing to prove their rights. The implication of all undocumented people was first to get to be regulated, but then it began to be a fight for housing, for the right to housing. Of course, we know that the fight for free housing is a fight that affects all citizens, and us, in those citizens, we always react. In Brussels, there are many buildings that have been opened by other friends from other groups, and that have blocked different kinds of real estate projects. Established by big multinationals. So this is what we try to do at the building of the KBC. For those of you who follow these events, you should know that the municipality is on the side of the owner. And for us, this municipality is an actor, and it should be an actor taking part in the question of the management of individuals who are undocumented in the neighborhood. So first it was to raise awareness in the neighborhood regarding this issue, because in this neighborhood we have municipal demands. For example, to get our cards. This is something that is this about municipalities. But when we talk about being regulated, this is on the scale of the federation. Now we get to organize in groups. We manage to organize events, gatherings, demonstrations, and we are able to manage a daily life where we struggle, especially in the pandemic period and so on. The first people that were affected by this crisis were undocumented individuals who just opened the fridges and saw that there was nothing left after 1 week. And I'm only talking about Belgium. Okay, solidarity mobilized itself. And of course, it's the fight who gets results, because now we see that rights, you have to fight for your rights. It isn't granted easily. The only people who demonstrated were undocumented. And we got results because we reacted. We had to react to this situation. A situation where markets are closed, where everything is closed, and you're just left with nothing at all. And municipalities started to answer. They started to give out food stamps and other forms of support from associations and organizations in the neighborhood. They also started to act and to say that there was a need to act after occupying this building. We tried to organize ourselves between undocumented individuals, but not only. We are trying to put that our cause, this debate in the range of other causes and other debates. Now we are amongst our friends from all other European countries that fight for the right to housing. So what we are asking, well, is that the 31st there will be an eviction, and we would really like to have some European support.
En papier, on peut
Because this is going to allow us to reinforce the bond between the action in Brussels carried out by the KBC coalition and the European movement. So I'm really making here a solemn appeal to all our comrades to support us. Please keep in mind that after our last General Assembly of the neutral zone will keep occupying buildings and will keep occupying state-owned buildings, government buildings who stay empty and who are not available to us. Thank you very much, Said.
But I will use the moment that Said also already introduced, that we will come to the occupied KBC. We are calling for an action in solidarity this Sunday at 2 p.m. in front of the KBC. This is, of course, in solidarity with the community, but as you already understood, is that we are all struggling against evictions in our cities. And traditionally, especially in France, there was like an eviction moratorium until the end of March. And this is now coincidence that it comes together, I guess. But we also call for another housing action day on the 26th and on the 27th of March. And we try to combine these struggles, and we would be happy to see you all there on Sunday in front of the occupied KBC. And now we will listen to Nora, and she will tell us how they are fighting evictions. But introduce yourself.
Thank you, and thank you, Annie and Said, for sharing your stories, and especially Said sharing the struggle about KBC. I'm Nora. I'm from the social housing now movement from Cluj-Napoca, which is in Romania. Our housing movement, as it's in the name, fights for social housing, but also against evictions. And first, I will give you a bit of a context for one of the actions we did last year, because actually what I will be talking about are some successful measures we took last year to delay, postpone, and block some eviction cases in the city. But to give you the context first, so that you can understand what was the case about last year, is that in 2010, 350 Roma people were evicted from a central building in Cluj-Napoca, and they were displaced near the landfills of Patarut. And many of them got rental contract to so-called modular houses that are 16 square meter wide, small rooms actually, and they are paying the contracts to the municipality there. And this case was, we took to court this because it's illegal to rent houses to people in toxic conditions. And because of this, when some of the modular houses remain vacant because the renters moved to social housing in the city, the municipality didn't make new contracts for other people, so there were a few vacant rooms. And some families occupied the vacant modular houses, of course, because they were, you know, like still livable housing conditions under the very precarious conditions. And last year, 4 families got notices that, especially one got an eviction notice that they have 8 days to vacate the room and move out, and the others got some other documents that they were stating that they are illegally occupying a housing unit and they don't have a contract, so they should give the keys to the municipality and move away. So what we did was that, first of all, we raised the questions that where can you live in this city when you are even evicted from near the waste? You know, it's like you were evicted first to go there and then you're evicted again. So it's like ridiculous in a way. But then we needed to deploy certain tactics to make our demands heard on different levels. And what we did was we wrote an appeal in both English and Romanian to national and international institutions and organizations about this case. And we asked them to push the municipality to not enforce the evictions. The other thing was that we've sent the appeal also to other social movements, other housing groups, but also other movements that are not focused necessarily on housing, and to publish it online so that individuals also can sign. And this way we collected in a very short time 100 signatures from organizations and almost 500 from individuals. And then when we got the signatures, we made a press release that we sent to national and international press as well. And it had a very huge echo. We had 14 articles published in Romania, both in Romanian and Hungarian language, that is a minority language. And we had 5 international articles in English, Serbo-Croatian and Hungarian, with the help of the Eastern European left media outlet that reacted very fast and picked up our press release and translated to local languages in Eastern Europe, which is, I believe, a very huge issue to get this national and international very good media coverage, because it showed a very bad light on the city of Cluj-Napoca that in other conditions presents itself, you know, the authorities tell this, that Cluj is a city of 5 stars, it's a smart city, it's a city of festivals, a cultural capital. And, you know, in a cultural capital, you evict people from near the landfill. And we were also on the national television, where the mayor of the municipality was invited as well, and actually the vice mayor. And they said that, oh no, we don't even have the plan to evict, it's something totally else. And in the end, after all of these measures, and I forgot one also important one, with the help of the European Roma Rights Center, we also got the case directly to the European Human Rights Court, because there is this one certain clause in law that allows you not to go through national court, but directly go to the European Human Rights Court if there is no way to go against a decision that is unjust for people. So after all of these measures, the municipality gave an official statement to us in which they stated that they are going to postponed the eviction case of the one family that got a notice of eviction within 8 days, and in the other 3 cases, in 2 cases actually, they said that they are going to investigate more, and after that they will make a decision of these illegal occupants. And in one case, that was actually very tricky, because these people were not anymore living in that building. They gave the keys back to the municipality last year. They were there like a few months, and now they said that, okay, we recognize they gave the key back last year, but after doing all these measures, they noticed that, oh my God, we made a mistake in, of course, it's never a mistake. And we had another case that is a bit different in another area of the city. In the 70s, in the socialist system, some workers moved to a building that was their housing unit while they were working to a Transylvanian construction company. But in the 90s, where the privatization happened, they had chances to buy the housing units they were living in. And these families, these Roma families, bought their units. But then when their family got bigger, their relatives, their kids built some houses without permit near the house the family bought initially. And this year, a demolition notice was sent to the names of actually 7 families. Not all of them were living in these settlements that were built without a permit, but they sent a notice that you should demolish yourself, your lodgings, otherwise we are going to send a company and you have to pay for it and stuff like that. But they forgot one important thing. When you evict people, you are by law obliged to offer alternative housing. And once they didn't even say it's an eviction, but they didn't offer anything. So we managed to contest the decision. And then we also asked for a delay or postponement of the execution. So this way we managed this demolition, which was also an eviction, not to happen. So what is, the conclusion of all of this is that the latter case I mentioned, is related to all these urban renewal plans that are in that area. Because of course Cluj is affected very much by gentrification, ITification and touristification. And all that area is rebuilt. They are building luxury apartments, they are building offices there, and that is the reason behind they want to demolish these apartments. And we managed to postpone, but the risk is still there. Maybe last year they will send again, they will have another tactic. And the case with the landfill site, Patarut is one of, I think, the biggest actually waste-related ghetto in Europe. And there are around 1,500 people living there. And of course, it's like for Cluj, that presents itself as the city of 5 stars and very fancy, very clean. It is complicated to have all this media attention and all this attention and public opinion of letting people live near toxic environment. And now they made a new urban development plan for the next 10 years, and they said that they will make Patarut disappear, and they use this word, we will make it disappear, because they are building Transylvanian smart city, a new neighborhood just near the landfill site. And it's very ridiculous because currently the construction is taking place, and from the place where they are building the smart city, it's visible, the waste is visible, the poor apartments are visible, and there's the smart city. So they said that they want to make it disappear, and so they will have new tactics, they will have new measures to evict these people, to make them disappear, as they say. And of course, in the urban development plan, they also stated that they want to build new social housing. They want to offer new social housing for 1,500 people. But Cluj is also the city that in the last 5 years, they didn't give more than 5 social housing units for hundreds of inquiries each year. So how they will make all these new apartments suddenly, you know, for so many people, it's, you know, it's like you cannot really believe it that they will do it when they never do it. So even though we are managing to postpone some evictions, we really need new tactics, new solidarity, and even more attention to these issues, so that we cannot let that even more injustice, more housing injustice could happen to so many people. Yeah, I think this is what I wanted to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this was already a whole range of different tools and tactics. The next speakers are Paul and Vincent. Please come to the stage. And Pascal.
Oui. Où est-ce qu'il est, Polo? Ok. Voilà. Donc.
So, good evening. So, Pascal, Housing and Participation member, an association that is a member of the European Coalition. And we wanted here to speak to you about an issue that can be considered to be borderline. Our coalition has always been at the forefront of fighting evictions and at the forefront of claiming the rights to social housing. But what we're going to talk to you about now is somewhat different and highlights how the coalition could act at the spearhead for new proposals. And we're going to talk to you about lightweight housing, and we're going to, of course, establish a link between lightweight housing and the right to housing. So, should we consider lightweight housing? Should we equate it or consider that lightweight housing is alternative housing? Well, I'm looking here whether David is still here, and yes. And so, should we really talk about alternative housing, or should we talk to an alternative to housing? So, what are we talking about? This kind of housing can be considered as an alternative in 3 regards. So, first of all, it may be considered as an alternative, built alternatively, so built with different materials and built on sites where usually you do not build. So, in that sense, lightweight housing can be sometimes considered as alternative housing, but it can also be alternative in its in the way of living that it is designed for. So it's a different way of living together. It's a different way of living with your neighbors, of living within an area. And then it can also be an alternative, a social alternative. And I think that this alternative character in its social dimension is something really important. And maybe we can imagine that in the near future, lightweight housing is going to be a real social alternative. Now, I'm going to give the floor to Vincent, and lots of struggles, of studies, of commitment have gone into developing the lightweight housing movement in Wallonia. The reason why it's 3 of them here on stage is that there is Polo, who is a representative of lightweight housing in France, and Vincent in Belgium. So, thank you very much, Pascal. Now, I was in Nice when the coalition was founded. I live in myself in lightweight housing, and of course I was biased towards defending that kind of housing, because social housing, public housing, and the fight against evictions were our main concerns. So I felt that maybe I was a bit out of place, that this wasn't really a topic, because I spent a week working with others in order to try and make the regulatory framework change. And so we worked together with travelers, 3 families who belong to travelers. They live on camping sites. I'm not going to go into the detail now, but so we also worked with people who only eat organic food, so who are alternative in yet another way. So anyhow, this was a gathering of a number of people of all walks of life, and also together with representatives of the local government. They were very happy about that, because basically they felt that this was a way out of their obligation to build social housing. So this kind of the work, this lobbying, this coalition led us to, in agreement with ministries, to have the law changed and to have a decree offering for the first time a definition of lightweight housing. So we worked for 6 or 7 years, and then finally in 2019 we got this decree. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail of this new regulatory framework, because there is no time for that. But what is really important is to understand that that kind of housing is not a second-class kind of housing. It's actually very comfortable. It is proper housing. I mean, Polo could also say a word to that, testify to that. And so some of you may remember the text written by Illich. And so we started with a life experience that knows how positive lightweight housing can be, and we brought about legal change. Now, legal change, of course, certainly creates a market, and lightweight housing becomes a product, a commodity. And that's, of course, not what we wanted. However, within the coalition, I think that now lightweight housing has its place within our coalition, and it is probably an area of work that we should commit towards, that we should show interest for. And lightweight housing is really something that can be of interest to all of us within the coalition. So allow me to introduce the ALEM Association, so HALEM, and this was all born in on a camping site where a number of families were living in camping vans, etc. And so, of course, we got interested also in other forms of alternative housing, teepees and such tents, and of course, together with people from the traveling community, our starting point was, of course, a kind of reluctance and a kind of defiance towards public authorities. And so, what this is about is basically to put yourself outside society, as it were, and to do things on your own. And for example, it gives rise to wonderful alternative creations. There's a picture of one of those creative forms of housing on the wall. And of course, in a way, there is a kind of isolation. We come under pressure because what it means is that, in a way, the legal framework is we do not benefit from the guarantees that are given by a legal framework because the approach of public authorities is mostly repressive, and so, for example, it ends up in front of courts, and there we have to claim our rights. Sometimes, actually, it leads to great gains, great victories. And so, for example, we decided to have an urban camp in order to fight the decision that had been made by the prefect to expel everyone. And at the time, the Constitutional Council in France actually acknowledged that we were right and that the prefect had no right to dispel the camp. So, our struggle, in a way, aims at trying to establish a legal framework to force the public authorities to actually give us rights. But this is an ambivalent struggle, because sometimes you get a new law, a law is passed, etc., and it establishes new norms, which is good, but it stays on paper. And so, in a way, there is no change in culture, meaning that the users will not benefit from the new legal framework. Needs, for example, will simply be ignored. They won't be listed. And so when municipal authorities, they will be able to deliberately ignore the rights of settled communities and will, of course, not offer alternative housing as a serious alternative. So in a way, we're not taking seriously, and with my colleague Vincent, we found out that that's very similar in France and in Belgium. So when a group, for example, makes a public tender advertising that there are free spaces, then we can judge the interest that is raised by lightweight housing by the answers we get, which is also a way of putting pressure on public authorities by showing them that actually it is of great interest to many people. And I'd like to mention also the European directive against the artificialization of soils. So we need to, this basically aims at preventing the transformation of land into building sites and to densify urban areas in order to avoid building in rural areas. But lightweight housing, so lightweight housing that has that is reversible, that is not there to stay forever, is something that is being completely ignored. So in a way, there's an implicit recognition that this is that lightweight housing has a positive footprint, as it were, that the footprint that it is a virtuous way of occupying land, but still, instead of seeing this as a real alternative that is compliant with some of the major aims of public policies nowadays, we're still subject to the repression of local authorities who think that this is just illegal housing. So, we think that within our coalition, it would be really good to highlight the use and virtues of lightweight housing. And so I hope that we'll be able to keep talking about this topic, which has a bright future.
I think very often we forget that to build different ways of living together is a very strong tool, and we more think about demonstrations or blockades. Or I would like to ask you later about your urban camp. I didn't get it totally. The next speaker is unfortunately sitting in Berlin. They were supposed to come here, but because of the storms in Germany, all the trains were cancelled. And I wish we have a good connection now. We have no connection now. We will try it later. So I will ask Tonya to come here to the stage. Tonya will speak about a new tool, the auction watch that her group established. Please introduce yourself.
Well, hello. I'm Tonya. I'm coming from Greece. I'm a member of a group that is working the last 10 years in Greece against auctions and evictions of the indebted people, which are a very big number, especially after the crisis of 2010. The most difficult problem with this story of the indebted people, that in our late numbers is about 150,000 families that are in danger of losing their the house they are living, is that almost all the society, of course the governments, but even a big part of the society believe that there is a problem that does not exist, because of the way that the media, the main media, are presenting the problem. They usually say that the people the house that people live is protected. They used to say that the governments are against the people that are rich and took big loans, and not against all the people. So it's very difficult to pass what really is going on. So after 10 years where we tried to stop evictions in the courts by being there and making a lot of noise, the law changed and they make the auctions electronic, so it's very difficult to stop it. And we try to find new tools and to enforce a movement against auctions and evictions because of debt, as I told in the beginning. In this effort, we use a lot of different tools, but one of them, which I believe that is very important, is how we inform the people about what is going on. It's the last year, the government said that people that are indebted in Greece are the debts of these people are 39 billion less than the previous year, so the things are going better. The truth is that 39 billion less are the debts for the banks, so the banks really are going better. But these debts have been bought by funds, so they have just transferred from the banks to the funds. So what we try to do to create this, our arguments, is that we create with, actually with the support of Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, the foundation, a tool, an auction watch, where we are working first for 1 year and then we will see, trying to write down all the auctions that are coming and every week, and try to answer to several questions about what is really happening. The results for our first months of work are very impressive. For example, the argument that the media present that nobody is losing his first house is completely wrong. It's a lie, because during 2021, where there is also a moratorium, a part of this year was also a moratorium because of COVID, 1,000 families in Greece, they lost their house, and only in December of 2021, 42 families lost their houses in Athens. So the first lie is that actually, yes, the people are losing their houses. The second issue is to see how much money they own, the people against whom we have the auctions. Usually they say that there are people that they own a lot of money. With this work, we discover that every week, among the 100 auctions we have, there are about 10% that are people that are really own a lot of money, and the last 90% are people that own money than less than 200,000 euros, that are the money that they use to buy a house, the house they live. So a second big issue is this. The third is what kind of houses are going to auctions. Are the houses of rich people? Are big houses? In this third question, the results are more dramatic. Only last week, we have in auctions, in Athens, 25 houses that are houses less than 60 square meters. So they are houses of really poor people. This is also a very important data. And another interesting question is, where are these houses? Through our research about if are these houses spread in all the country or are focused in certain areas, up to now, we have found very interesting results. Most of these houses are houses in poor areas that they are planning to have gentrification programs. So it's very interesting to see that in Athens, in areas that, for example, is going to pass a new metro line, they attack and take the houses because people that are indebted are in all the city. They are not taking the houses spread in all the city, but they focus in areas that they are interested, for example, because of the new line of metro, or areas that can be touristified, etc. So we have also interesting results on this field. And the last, which is not least, and it's very interesting, but is the most difficult of all, is who is buying. Most of the houses are bought in the auctions by the banks. They are the banks, about 80%, they are bought back by the banks. So the argument that said that the banks has to sell the houses because they have economical problems and they have to take back the money and resolve these problems is totally false. So 80% are bought by the banks, and the rest 20%, we are trying to find who is buying. We know that mostly they are not individuals that they are buying, but the data about the buyers are totally they are totally out of access. So we have to do a more specialized investigation to find out who is buying. Because we know that from the Greek market out of the auctions, that at this period we have, for the first time in the Greek history of housing, big companies that entering the market, and they are gathering houses in certain areas. These companies are coming especially from China, from Arabic Emirates, from Israel, from United States, from Sweden. We are in front of a big change in the situation in the Greek market, and we are very interesting, not only because we want to understand what is going on. This is, of course, very important, but because we want to create tools and mobilize the Greek society about what is going on now. That's it. That is our experience.
Maybe one sentence, you were too fast, to give us a prospect what you will do with the data that you collected. What you will do with the data that you collected. Do you have some ideas?
Yes, we want to, we will work for 1 year, and then we want to present this data in, we hope, a quite big conference. And in the meantime, we are making some statements in newspapers and in free press, alternative press, that they want to spread all this information. We hope that by the end of this year, 2022, we can have very, very interesting results on this.
Thank you, Tonya. So Berlin, we can start?
Yes, hopefully. Can
welcome.
You hear me? Hi. You cannot see me, but I also cannot see you, except one of you, so I guess we are equal. I'm really sad not to be here in person, but I'm really glad that I can be here a little bit online. My name is Luce. I'm from the Tenants Union of Berlin. We are an organization that has been existing for 2 years, and we are a new member of the European Action Coalition. And I'm going to speak about the referendum that Berlin had to expropriate large private housing companies, which is called as Deutsche Wohnen enteignen. I want to clarify before that we, as a tenant union, we are not the group that has been coordinating the referendum campaign. We just cultivate connections with activists locally and with the campaign as an organization. It's a really large organization. It involves a huge number of people, and they've done really incredible things. I will just first go into hard facts so that everyone has an idea of what we're talking about, and then I'll share the result of our discussion in the union about the referendum after its success in September. So hard facts. So the name of the campaign is Deutsche Wohnen enteignen, which means expropriate Deutsche Wohnen. Deutsche Wohnen is one of the large housing companies, and the referendum is about expropriating any private company that owns more than 3,000 flats. There are about a dozen of these big companies in Berlin. Deutsche Wohnen is one of them, although right now it's been actually swallowed by another one. But it doesn't matter because it's about all large housing companies, private ones. The referendum was the end moment, or it's not the end, but it was like the summit of years of organizing that involved, like I said, an incredible number of people in different levels. The step one was gathering signatures to get a referendum to be presented at the election in September, and the second step was to get people to vote in favor of the expropriation. And the result, as I probably know, if you don't, the result was that on the 26th of September, over 1 million people in Berlin have voted in favor of expropriating large housing companies, private ones. That's like 59.1% of voters. That, of course, was an incredible victory, but of course, there's a but. What is happening now is less thrilling, because what the referendum was about is unfortunately not like, it doesn't result in like, okay, immediately expropriation is on its way, but the local government has to work on a law that would allow the expropriation. And what's happening now, unfortunately, is that the government that has been elected on the same day is not very happy about the referendum result and is trying to do everything in its power to delay and soften its result. I want to clear the air before I go into our position on like the discussion we had in the union about the referendum, about the very obvious limits of the referendum, which is that, of course, you need people to have voting rights to express themselves. And in Berlin, about 25 people, adults who live in Berlin, don't have voting rights, did not have voting rights on that election, including myself, because I'm not a German citizen. The campaign was vocal about this and is also in favor of voting rights for all and has been vocal about that. I just wanted to name that because it's a very obvious limit. Then again, when the idea of expropriating Deutsche Wohnen with a referendum was first discussed in 2017, it was unimaginable for most people, activists or not. Even the word expropriate seemed like, are you kidding? 2 years later, the situation had already changed. The local government felt like there was such a strong tenants movement that the local government already felt compelled to introduce a rent cap. Now today, again 2 years later, unfortunately the rent madness is stronger than ever, and the rights of tenants have been further restricted. So we've actually gone backward in the last year. Only the rent cap that was introduced 2 years earlier has fallen in front of a justice court, and another communal instrument against gentrification has also fallen in front of a justice court in the last month. Of course, in that context, the electoral success of the referendum was a very big ray of hope for all of us. But what we, as the Tenants Union, are very enthusiastic about is not so much the electoral result, but the energy that we felt and witnessed behind the campaign. It was really amazing to see how neighbors networked, how neighborhood teams formed everywhere, and people went out to ring on doors and meet their neighbors. The energy and solidarity that the many neighbors have put into the campaign, we have to maintain in the tenants movement. But we see the election success really with mixed feelings, because two things are clear right now. Both that 1 million tenants in the city, at least, because some of them couldn't vote, are behind the expropriation of large private housing company. But at the same time, we are still not yet enough of a strong organized force. And we really see also a danger in raising false hopes and investing our energies in the wrong place. The fact that the government can delay the referendum at all, it shows that the pressure that we generate is not great enough. And it is really doubtful at this point that the expropriation from above, from the government, will ever happen. And after all the years of disappointment, we really prefer to put our trust in ourselves as tenants. That's why we propose to go back, to walk back this path from the parliament back into the houses where it all started. because we don't want a symbolic victory. We want real socialization. We want real expropriation. In the long terms, we will only be able to live in dignity if housing is no longer traded as a commodity. And as a union, our approach is collective and stable, organizing from below to help build networks of tenants that are strong, solidary, and stable. We believe we can organize ourselves in such a way that we first make partial rent strikes possible and later a socialization expropriation. We feel that taking this path is the logical conclusion from the experiences of the campaign, both the really positive ones, the organizing potential, and the negative ones, because right now it looks like we are in a parliamentary impasse. And on this path, we think we will find probably many different, some big, some small, concrete and partial solutions to the question, how can we manage together to take our lives and housing out of the market? And we are much more excited about that plan right now than about the results of a commission reviewing the referendum, which is what is happening right now about these results. That's all for me.
Thank you, Luce. I wish we maybe will find you later if there is any questions. Our last speaker is Sarah here from Brussels. No, he will be angry.
Ok, bonsoir à toutes et à tous.
Good evening to everyone. So I have been asked to take the floor to talk about the Housing Action Day in Belgium, and I'm very flattered to have been invited to take the floor. In 2019, Eva, who is one of the unique individuals who worked in associations in Brussels, wanted to do something at the scale of Europe. And there was a call for a weekend of demonstrations for the right to housing. We were several members of associations of first Latin members and second Latin members who were fed up with the situation, with different social workers and tenant associations who found their work very hard to be in front of people whose destiny seemed all defined. So the rents kept rising, gentrification kept going on, and public authorities kept investing in it and in real estate. So we just ask ourselves, why wouldn't we organize this demonstration? So the call was quite radical, more than what we used to talk about when we were several organizations around the tables these past few years. But we had luck. So we just ask ourselves, are you okay with this? Yes, okay, let's go and stop debating about some topics. We are also lucky to be in Brussels because Brussels is a small city. You don't have so many. You have many activists, and we have movements of squads and different type of settlements who followed up. So the Housing Action Day in 2020 was the opportunity for our associations to go on about topics that were important for us and to fight on the political aspects of these topics in cities where a lot of social services are financed but are not politically thought because of fear, because of administrative struggles, because of being afraid of not having investments anymore. And for those of you who do not know Belgium, Belgium is a small country cut into three with different kinds of realities. So to see this European coalition who is able to agree on a text, well, if there are 3 official languages in Belgium, there is maybe a way to do something here as well. In 2020, So maybe you have been through lockdown as well. We stayed very motivated, but we stayed motivated remotely. We managed to organize a gathering. Some people gathered on bike, and completely by chance, they arrived on the demonstration on a squat, and they blocked the arrival of police. And thanks to that, we got to postpone that eviction. It has been prolonged a bit. So it was a great moment, even though the topic was dramatic. In 2022, this year, we are in a situation with floods in Wallonia. Many people lost their houses. They were living in decent houses. Many people died. And in Flanders, the issue is the loss of social housing as a legal status and the impossibility to finance social housing. In Brussels, many households are struggling with poverty. So we have different aspects on which to work, but I hope that we will manage to organize an association, different strong associations, and to organize ourselves, because that is what is important. And it's happening in every city, and sometimes maybe we feel small and isolated, but to see that we are not the only ones and it's happening in different cities, well, that is great. I don't think that I have anything else to add, but it is a great pleasure to be here today and to meet you, and I really hope that we will win. Thank you.
Thank you. So, sorry, I'm almost blinded by the light. I cannot see you. But I would like to open the floor to, it's here. Maybe in the first circle, if you have questions, specific questions to the speakers, we can collect some questions and then we will answer. It's a bit weird choreography here because we cannot sit all on the stage and the people have, we are a social movement. And Eva has a microphone.
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci pour.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you for all these wonderful speeches. I wanted to ask a question to different people who took the floor. I would like to ask about feminist organization, if they played a role in this context. I think it would be very interesting for me because I work in this kind of organization. I think that in Spain they had a big role to play.
So also, any of the people here can answer the question if there is no other question.
Maybe I can. So I'm gonna sit. My name is Sara. I'm from Portugal, and today I'm here representing Habita, an association that defends people for their right of housing in the city. And most of the people that come to us with housing problem are women. So along maybe 10 years of work, 80% of the people that are fighting for the right of housing are women. Many of them are racialized women. They are also mothers, single moms, and they don't have money to pay the actual rent. So many of them occupy buildings. And that's a big reality in Lisbon. So we try to organize a group of women, just women, and to make them visible, and to make visible the specific problem that women have regarding or towards housing. So last year we did open letter. It's called "We Homeless Women Exist," and we tried to put this, how can I say, this in the public speech, no, that women without houses exist, homeless women exist, but they have different strategies. And most of the times the strategies are occupying the houses. But the thing is, what do we have in common? No? What are the common stories that these women have? Many of them, maybe 50% of the women that have to occupy the house, they have problems with domestic violence. So many times they were escaping a violent home, and the answers that they have, like the public answers, and in Portugal we have some programs for victims of domestic violence, but they didn't like the answers going to a shelter. They didn't want to go to a shelter and lose the sense of home. They were afraid of losing their children, so they tried to find solutions. So now we are trying to organize women. Last week we did like this demonstration in Lisbon, because we are trying to organize these women that are occupying houses and have children, so they don't get expelled from their houses. And women still earn less than men, so they have less money to pay the rents. Women are still responsible for taking care of the children, so sometimes they can't have jobs and children. So they have to choose between taking care of the children and staying home with the children, or having a job. So there's this question that's a feminist question. So this 8th of March, we've been participating with groups of women fighting for the houses, but this 8th of March we are trying to do like this big block with women and their children. It's very important because we talk also about children that are in risk of getting homeless, not only women, also children. So it's an attack also against the rights of children. So we are trying also to put this in public. And it's very important also that they can recognize themselves as a group of women fighting for their right of housing, and recognize the still the problems that women have in this society. And we also deal with a lot of women that live in the peripherics, and they are migrant women, and some of them are also Rom, or they are black women. So it's kind of a mixed that you can find, and housing is just the first thing. So in housing, you can, in housing problems and the right to housing and to the city, you can cross gender, you can cross race, you can cross class. And I think that's very important for the movement, our movement, also to think about the questions and to see that many of us that are organized are women, and what are our specific problems and our specific demands. So in Lisbon, we are trying to do this. We are doing this maybe now for 2 or 3 years. We are still a small group. We are called Muda. Muda, it's also a game of words for change. It means change, and women fighting for the right of housing. So I hope that I answer your question somehow.
We have.
Okay. I just want to add something on the question about the role of the women, a little different. I totally agree with what was said before. From my experience, for the last 10 years that I'm working on the field of indebted people, many families that have problems, many people that have problems, that they had contact with us, with the movement. And I want to say, and it's very nice that you put this question, that through all these years, all the people that contact us, except in 2 times, there were women. The 2 times that there were men, once was a man that was not married, and the other was a man that was divorced. It's so. I think, I'm sure that the women didn't put themselves in the situation of the people that has lost his respect for himself because of the situation that he was because of the debt. The women had a more strength to face the problem, and also they believe much more in the solidarity and in the massive collective action. The men were more cynic. If we didn't manage, nothing can happen. And through the women, it came back to the family the, how can I say, the hope that they can try to find a solution. And I think that this was really, really interesting, and I would like to share it with you. Yeah, we should do workshops tomorrow. Oh, nice.
Thank you, Tonya. There's Nora also. Also here. No.
Yeah, I also want to briefly answer the question about feminism in the housing movement in Romania. And I would like to connect to what Sarah said. So the housing group I'm involved with in Romania, and also the other housing groups, have an intersectional perspective on housing. So how also Sarah said, we are also taking in consideration class, racialization, and gender when we are talking about housing. And it's not that there are feminist organizations and housing organizations, but the perspective of our organizations are intersectional and feminist. And there is also the comrades from the Roma feminist organization in Romania that are empowering Roma women and are organizing in Roma women communities. That one of the topics they deal with is also housing, but they don't only deal with housing, but we are organizing with them as well. So it's very present in Romania as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, I wanted to thank the organization for these nice presentations, and I was really interested in the question you posed. I come from Barcelona. I'm a member of the Union of Tenants in Catalonia, Spain, and actually, already, I think 4 years ago, we started before the 8th of March, some collaboration with feminist groups in from the housing movement in Barcelona, and the idea a little bit was to put forward what you were saying in Romania. Not so much that one day, a year, we would do something together and say, hey, housing is a feminist problem, but also to integrate a little bit this perspective that actually all that has to do with housing needs a feminist perspective, or is already immersed in a feminist perspective. So that's what my point here is not, so in Spain we have this, especially in Catalonia, I think. I don't know of the rest of Spain. I believe there is also some collaboration, but well, in Catalonia we work under the umbrella of it's called We Make Feminist Homes, which in Catalan it kind of sounds well, Familiars Feministas. So that's what we do. We try to keep it going, but in the end, in the end, we do more things also for the 8th of March, even if we try to keep, it happening constantly. But what we have seen is not so much that we have to claim that women, in fact, are the ones that mobilize, that are the leaders of this struggle, that are the subjects, no? The principal subjects of the struggle, which is true. But I think that we have to claim the feminist perspective on the economic matter. No? So I believe that this, like what is the social reproductive perspective that now feminists are discussing a lot, feminist theory, is not just a theory to be written in books, but actually to incorporate also in practice and in our organizations. And I think this can be done to make the clear link of how housing is not just a thing, an object that you consume and that you have to use for surviving, but it's integrated in the network of social relations and like in a place that allows you to reproduce life. This is very visible with moms that have kids in the schools that cannot move around, that cannot just change residence every time that the contract expires or every time that the rent goes up. And so I think this type of work is really important, and to me this is a little bit the way to go, to stress that this is a feminist perspective and that we should work on that direction, because this allows to create very important alliances, not only with the feminist movement, but with also like the schools movement, the teachers who are also very organized and rooted in the neighborhoods and so on. And that can make, I don't know, the housing issue or the rent issue to be put even more in the center of the political agenda. That's it.
Bonjour, donc Léa, je suis aussi de...
My name is Leah. So, I wanted to remind you of an action that we carried out last year. So this was an action in order to highlight the gender approach in the housing rights movement. So what we did is that it was on the 8th of March in Brussels, and so what we did is that we brought to the fore a number of feminist demands and that we highlighted them. We organized a strike and we stood in front of a building that had been occupied, but where there had been an eviction. I don't know whether you know the Persico Hospital. I mean, it's well known by the people in Brussels. The building was empty. It actually belongs to the Center for Social Aid, and the people who went into the building and occupied it got evicted 2 days later. So we wanted to give some visibility to that attempt that had failed, and also to highlight the question of housing rights, in particular for women. So I don't know whether on the 8th of March, which is International Women's Day, you have the intention of bridging the gap between women's rights and housing or not. So I really love the feminist turn taken by the debate. However, I will actually give the floor to a man.
No, it's right. I was just confused that I'm now having to turn away from the feminist turn that we were having. Yes, I just wanted to say that we are two activists from Berlin here actually today from the referendum that was just presented very nicely. So yeah, I'm not going to say more about it since you just had a nice presentation, even though we might have been a little bit more optimistic about the outcome. We're here because we're traveling to Ghent tomorrow, where there's maybe going to be a similar referendum. And yeah, I just want to say if there's more questions about it, then you can ask them directly to us, since we managed to make it from Berlin.
Can you tell us how you are in Belgium? Why are you going to Ghent, and who are you going to meet there? Just in a few words, like if maybe in Ghent they planned something for housing specific, or?
So yeah, it is because the tool we used for our struggles was this referendum campaign. And people in Ghent are trying not to expropriate their landlords, not yet, maybe, hopefully. But first they want to protect some social housing facility. I guess you know better than me because I'm not from Belgium. But they want to have a referendum there too, and they want to not get their homes demolished, basically. And yeah, that's maybe we can inspire them a little bit because we had a success, even though nothing is expropriated right now, but in the future we are hopeful for it, and maybe we can inspire them and show them some forms of action we used in Berlin and which led to our success. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bonsoir. Moi, ce que je voulais ajouter sur la question.
What I wanted to add regarding the question of women's rights and undocumented people is that within the movement we debate that question. Now, 45% of the undocumented migrants are women. So these women in their work, when they work, when they're invisible, working for restaurants, working in kitchens, underground, etc., they don't have the time to be really visible within our movement. So the KBC group, and I want to reassure you, the KBC group is managed by the women of the group, and if it hadn't been for the women, I can tell you that we would already have been evicted. And then there's another group. So it's a movement called Family Without Papers. These are families who have occupied a building. And so regarding the undocumented status and the role of women, I can reassure you as to the importance taken by women. We are in a political context where an exhibition that has been put together by a group is highlighting the role of women within the movement of undocumented migrants. So the undocumented woman is really at the very core of our struggle, is really at the fore of everything that is being done in Brussels.
Hello, and thank you for all the interventions. My name is Liliana, and I'm from Portugal, but I work here in Brussels in the European Left Party. And we are starting a working group inside the party with several European comrades on the topic of housing. So if you may, any of the speakers speak a bit more regarding the housing action day that will happen this year, I would love to know a bit more for this. Thank you.
Tu veux faire Ah non, non. Ouais. Alors, sinon, il y a Anso ou Charlotte. Anso, Charlotte, est-ce que vous voulez répondre à la question?
About what's happening in Brussels. Ok, en français, ça va. C'est assez simple, en fait.
Yeah, okay, what's happening in Brussels? So we want to relay the call for European action, and we organize a centralized action, meaning that there is going to be a demonstration starting at 3 p.m. On the Jeu de Bal Square on the 27th of March. It is a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, and so we are calling on everyone to organize surprise actions or other events. We hope it's going to take place not just in Brussels, but in other cities. We also hope that our comrades in Wallonia will also contribute to the events of the day. But we managed to actually have a joint action with our Flemish comrades, which is no small feat.
housingactionday.be.
So you can go and see the program, or what is being the agenda, what we are considering on the website of the Housing Action Day. And so our focus this year is going to be the decrease of rents, or rather stopping the increase of rents. And I would also remind everyone that we have training days in order to train for direct action. So we do this with an organization called Acting for Peace. They are experts in civil disobedience. This is going to take place on the 5th of March. On the 4th March, there is an event with Sarah, who is going to hold a conference of a particular kind. And then on the 13th of March, there is also going to be something dedicated to the crisis of housing. We will need to decide on what action to carry out with all those gathered on the 13th of March. March really is an important month to us, because we know that a number of sites that are being occupied are going to there are going to be evictions at the end of the month. So we really need to rally our efforts. Good evening, everyone. So I really enjoyed listening to the variety of experience that was provided by the different speakers. And I would like to congratulate the organizers who have given us an opportunity to listen to this variety of experience. I'm originally from Flanders. I live in Brussels, and I must say that what's happening, or what has happened in Berlin, is something that really speaks to me. I can tell you that some of the Flemish people are also committed to social struggles, and there are a number of interesting things happening. For example, in Ghent. I think that in Ghent we really have an opportunity to actually do something that is inspired by what has happened in Berlin. And often the actions, the ideas, the struggles that we carry out in Flanders are not well known in Wallonia. I mean, the situation in Berlin is really absolutely amazing. I mean, this is a situation that is completely unique, and really I think that it is something incredibly inspirational, in particular for the people of Ghent. So I'd be really, really interested in I am really interested in hearing the opinions that have been expressed, and I'm particularly glad about our two speakers from Berlin. I'm glad that some of them actually made it to Brussels. They were luckier than the speaker who connected through internet. They managed to travel just before the railway system, or before rail traffic was interrupted, and it's really so lucky that they are amongst us. But anyhow, I mean, a point of what I'm saying now is that I would really like to highlight the efforts that are being made currently in Ghent.
Dernière intervention de Luce qui est en ligne avec nous.
So Luce would like to take the floor once more. It's going to be her final intervention, and then we're actually going to call it a day and wrap it up. And I also wanted to add that all actions that will be carried out for the Housing Action Day in European cities will also be advertised on our website. So all you need to do is European Coalition for the Housing Rights, etc. Use Google or use DuckDuck or whatever you like, and housingnotforprofit.org is also giving you a wealth of information. So don't be shy and go to the websites. It's going to give you plenty of information for the Housing Action Day. And I will now give the floor to Luce, and then we can all carry on our discussions around a drink.
Hi. Can someone wave if you hear me?
Oui, on t'entend, Luce.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yes, first hi to the two Berliners who made it to Brussels. I hope it wasn't too weird to hear me speak about your work. And I'm glad that you can be here to talk about the referendum over drinks with people, because I do believe it's an incredible experience that we've had here. And I wanted to say about something completely different, actually, because we were talking about women and we were talking about undocumented people, and we have a feminist section in the union, and we are working quite closely with a group of refugee women, partly undocumented, partly documented, who are organizing an international conference in the next summer. So I wanted to spread the word about this because they're gonna be sending out invitation in the next few weeks, and it sounds like a good place for you all to be aware of that happening, and so that you're ready to receive the invitation when it comes out. Yeah, that's all. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Merci, Luce. Okay,
I just wanted to thank again the translation and the technicians and everybody who helped to make this event happening. And we will see you at the bar. Thank you very much.